fuck with me, then fuck with me. Since you shut my eyes to see it, I never knew where I was going. I went where the water was flowing. I know I've been on
The first time I watched Slumdog Millionaire, I was shocked to see the first name appearing in the credits to be a white name, Danny Boyle. Being an American Indian, I'm not nearly as connected to my home country as I feel like I should be. I can't just go back every so often and visit. India is hundreds of miles and thousands of dollars away. One of the most effective ways I could keep the memory of India and Indian culture alive in my mind was through cinema. Slumdog Millionaire is always one of my favorites to go back to because of how it shows India in such a rough, unfiltered light. I guess I was surprised to see a white person could tell such an authentic Indian story so accurately, and even more surprised that he could tell it so beautifully. How on earth could Danny Boyle understand the struggles of the homeless orphans of India? In that same light, how could Danny Boyle understand the struggles of the drug-addicted British that he depicted so tastefully in Trainspotting? The guy isn't just talented, he really cares. He cares about telling the stories of the voiceless, and that's what makes his films stand out so beautifully. I guess I should explain why I even thought about this question specifically. In a discussion with someone about Wes Anderson's upcoming movie, The French Dispatch, I mentioned how an overwhelming majority of the cast is white, and the person I was talking to got kind of confused. Does he have to cast a person of color? I mean, of course he doesn't have to, but it'd be nice to see a person of color be a main character in one of his movies for once. Well, there was a black person in The Life Aquatic. Well, there was one. Yeah, but can you really expect Wes Anderson to be able to authentically tell the story of a black person, or for that matter, any person of color in his films? Well, not every movie has to be about a racial struggle. We can have diversity in normal movies. Not every movie with a person of color as a main character has to be Selma. Shouldn't we at least leave that up to the non-white directors, though? But non-white directors are oppressed in Hollywood. It's only recently that we've had a lot of support for diversity in Hollywood, but non-white directors are still not given the same opportunities as white directors. Without a proper education, real, and demonstrated vision from POC directors, I doubt they would be given the same support and funding as white directors from most production companies. And the fact is, a lot of producers don't see people of color as profitable, unless the films made are about a racial struggle or play on race a lot. Take, for example, Crazy Rich Asians. Essentially, the movie's entire marketing strategy was that it had an all-Asian cast. It's no shocker that hundreds and thousands of Asians around the world all flocked to theaters to watch it. On the other hand, let's look at a movie like Tangerine by Sean Baker. It's a movie about black transgender prostitutes, one of the most marginalized groups in America. In 2019 alone, at least 26 black transgender women were killed due to fatal violence. Systematic transphobia often puts transgender people into poverty, homelessness, and survival sex work to stay afloat. This kind of lifestyle riddles the transgender community of America with drug addiction, sexually transmitted diseases such as HIV and AIDS, and suicidal tendencies. America isn't easy on transgender people, especially transgender people of color. All the same, Sean Baker was able to tell a compelling, hilarious, and touching story about a community he was never a part of.
I want you guys to come to my show tonight. I'm so excited about that.
She was the night before Alexandra. Stunning goddess. 7 p.m. sharp.
How do you motherfuckers see Chester?
No, not
No. Here we go again.
No.
Bro, he found himself trying to cheat on me. While I'm up in there, girl. Me, bitch. I wish I never told her. I heard about that fish. Who in the fuck is she?
Desiree. Come on, Desiree.
Girl, do you really want to go back to prison? You just got out, mama.
I told her that too. He act like prison is a bad place to go.
Mama, you are so much better than she is.
Better mira.
Mama, you're
Mi novio, mi esposo.
Okay, that's fine. But you know he's not your novio. He's with her. He left you for her the minute you went to jail.
Oh, bro, I'm so mad. Just stop.
But all I'm gonna say is this. Get that motherfucker.
The nuance and creative storytelling of Tangerine feels more like watching people you've known all your life rather than being introduced to a situation or set of characters. Sean Baker has been pretty dedicated to telling stories of the voiceless, just like Danny Boyle. The Florida Project tells the story of a mother and daughter in poverty, living at an offshoot Disneyland motel through the young daughter's eyes.
I failed as a mother, Mooney. You've disgraced me.
Yeah, Mom, you're a disgrace.
It's clear from the work of Danny Boyle and Sean Baker, directors that care about the people they tell stories about can effectively tell these stories. They both put in the work to understand the people and communities they're depicting on screen, and because of their efforts, they created influential and innovative pieces of art. So yes, we can tell other people's stories. We can do it well, but that's assuming that the storytellers put in the work and effort to understand the people they're telling stories about. So with Wes Anderson, and any other director that doesn't write stories about non-white people, or don't see people of color in any part of their vision, my only assumption is that these directors don't care. Wes Anderson doesn't have to care about diversity on screen since he's white. Seeing any sort of marginalized person on screen, or using his power to open up the industry to more marginalized actors isn't something he has to think about, nor is it something I think he thinks about at all. Because the truth is, if directors cared about diversity on screen, their movies would be more diverse. If you care about the people you're telling a story about, you can tell that story correctly.
Thank you, everyone. Everybody clap. Woo! Clap for her. Woo! Yeah, girl, that's right. She did that.
Okay.
Yes, she did that.
This next one is one of my favorites. I hope it's one of yours.
Shit, I need some more of that shit, bro. That Tina, bro.
Yes, girl.